While Black Clover's anime return is nearly just around the corner, its manga series has long officially concluded in spring this year, and despite the various issues with its ending, I will say the payoff for said ending was worth it, especially since Asta was able to achieve his dream of becoming the Wizard King, and his fated duel against Yuno went a lot better than expected. Plus, if I'm being honest, the ending of Black Clover isn't as disappointing compared to a certain other manga series that ended a month before it. Not to mention, given what was happening behind Yuki Tabata's personal life, it's a miracle the ending wasn't even worse. Nevertheless, it was still just as badly rushed, and with a rushed ending, we are even left with many unanswered questions. Luckily, it appears that most of those unexplored answers were written in this recently released guidebook, and thanks to this dedicated fan, whose username is Sanaxi, translating and showing what was in the guidebook, we were given a lot of interesting info. And just to show you what some of those infos are, welcome to Animanko 9000, a channel where we talk about anime, manga, and other types of media related content. And within this video, I'll be going over most of the major reveals in the Black Clover guidebook. Fair warning, there will be some spoilers up ahead. Also, if you want to hear more of the contents I mentioned earlier, then please subscribe to my channel and hit that noty bell. So to start things off, I thought we could first take a look at new details regarding the origin and background of Asta. Like this, for example, where Yuki Tabata gave a brief explanation of the real reason why the MC has no magic. And as revealed, it was because of his mother Risita, or more specifically, her special constitution that causes her to drain the magical power and life force from anyone who approached her. Though to be frank, I feel that this particular piece of info was something that many fans have already suspected. In fact, once Risita herself began explaining the nature of her powers, the answer was basically right in front of them. So, if one were to put 2 and 2 together, it would make sense to how Asta was born with no magic. Having said all this, it was nice of Tabata to help confirm our suspicion. But in regards to how Asta was able to survive his birth, well, as also stated within the guidebook, it was because he was still connected to Risita during her pregnancy. It sounds a bit weird when I say it out loud, but the answer it gave us was clear-cut. After all, in some strange technical way, Asta, while still part of his mother's body, would be safe and be unaffected by her magic. Heck, for all we know, during those times of pregnancy, a portion of the life force she absorbed must have gone to her son, and as a result, it likely not only preserved Asta's own life force, but also prevent his premature death. I mean, that one is coming from my personal thoughts, but it could very well be true. Actually, upon even saying this, it might explain this next reveal of Asta's birth in the guidebook, where you see apparently the MC of Black Clover was born without a father. Like literally, he has no biological father. He was just conceived by his biological mother alone, which is crazy to hear about. It's practically telling the audience that Asta is this series' version of Jesus, kinda like how Shinra, the MC from Fire Force, is that series' version of Jesus. To be honest, it just brings up so many other questions. However, if the life force that Risita absorbed is the sole reason for Asta's creation, then, as I mentioned earlier, it would more or less explain a few things about the MC's unique birth. Nonetheless, this shocking reveal would greatly highlight the fact that Asta is more of a massive anomaly than we initially thought. Might just as well say that he himself is outside the world of Black Clover's usual norm. I know Tabata likely won't do it, but let's hope the mangaka is given another chance to reveal more about Asta's birth and origin. Moving on to the next set of details, here are some related to Julius as well as Lucius. And overall, while some set details involving these two are not that surprising, they do help to expand the lore surrounding them. Like the case with this Q&A, where someone asks that if time magic, which Julius uses, is Astaroth's magic, does that mean the former's original magic was soul magic? Upon hearing this, Tabata confirmed that similar to Lucius, soul magic was indeed the former Wizard King's original magic attribute. In hindsight, it does make sense, and it's certainly not uncommon for more than one mage having the same type of magic, even if they are rare. Though I did get slightly confused when the mangaka also explained the reason for their shared magic is because Lucius and Julius are two souls sharing a single grimoire. Now, from the way this part of the response is worded, it seems to imply that Lucius and Julius's magic is coming from the grimoire itself. But if I remember this correctly, while grimoires do grant mages better control of their magic and help amplify them, they are not the source of their magical power. I mean, they are connected to each mage's power, but I don't think grimoires are supposed to give them new ones. Then again, it could suggest that the grimoires in the Spade Kingdom work a bit differently than the ones in the other kingdoms. In this case, depending on what sort of attribute is within a grimoire, each said grimoire might be able to somehow awaken a new type of magic within their chosen mage. For example, near the end of Yuno's fight against one of the Dark Triads, he awakened star magic after acquiring a grimoire in the Spade Kingdom. So, going by that, the grimoire belonging to Julius and Lucius could have done the same and awakened their soul magic. Of course, the explanation provided by Tabata could mean something else. However, that's what I come to understand. Anyway, as to why Julius never realized his actual magic, or how he thought time magic was his, I would assume that Lucius has something to do with it. In fact, the guidebook even confirms it. Well, not directly, it merely states how the overarching main bad used soul magic to erase all traces of his existence from Julius's memories. It's basically similar to how it's also revealed that he wiped his siblings' memories of him within the Spade Kingdom, like with Dante, who believed he was the oldest of the Dark Triad. Nevertheless, I have to imagine that while messing with Julius's memories, Lucius must have also made his other self forget that he has soul magic, just to make it more impossible for the former Wizard King to stop his human salvation plan. Like, it wouldn't be surprising if he also made Julius forget about the pact that was made with Astaroth, and that his time magic was actually borrowed. I'm obviously just speculating at these parts, though given Lucius's background, it's a definite possibility. On a related note, the guidebook revealed a bit of history that not only includes Lucius, but also his involvement with those like Libai and Luciferus. And when I first read this on a user's post on Twitter, I was a bit caught off guard due to the oddity of the situation, because it stated that before Lucius would pair Dante with the strongest devil, he first tried to pair him up with Libai. Honestly, I can't imagine why Lucius would do that. Like, why would he initially have the weakest devil be partnered with the second or third strongest brother? I mean, I would think his reasoning was because of Libai's anti-magic. However, I doubt Lucius would be interested in something that's practically unknown to him. Plus, it would cause some contradiction with Libai's first meetup with those in the Spade Kingdom. Later, I found out that someone just misread the guidebook's text. As such, what really happened is that when Lucifero failed to manifest into the human world by possessing Libai, Lucius stepped in and offered the devil a chance to pair up with Dante. In retrospect, it feels like something the overarching main bad would actually do. Not to mention, it shows how deeply tied the mage is with the highest ranking devils. Still, it could also be true that Lucius might have mistaken Libai to be Lucifero. Once he found out after a failed contract between the devil and Dante, he likely of course got rid of the grimoire and turned his attention to making contact with Lucifero. Personally, it would be hilarious if Lucius did knowingly give Libai to Dante. It would basically be his way of saying that his brother is not all that talented. Anyhow, that's all there is to know about Julius and Lucius. Let's move on and look at details involving Noelle. Of course, besides ones like how she and her family have mended their relationship, I only found a few pieces of major info surrounding her. For instance, the current status of Noelle's pact with the mythical beast Leviathan. And as revealed in this one Q&A, the two are no longer together, which is a bit of a real shame. But then again, not all that surprising. After all, it was mentioned how the Leviathan will only appear when the world is in grave crisis. As such, once the crisis has been averted, it stands to reason that the sea god will fall back to sleep after fulfilling its purpose. Of course, having said that, I do kind of hope that the Leviathan stayed a bit longer with Noelle, especially if she could use more of that form that was shown in the final battle. At the very least, it could have stayed longer to become an honorary member of the Black Bulls, although I guess it technically is, since the guidebook pointed out that if another crisis were to happen, the loyal sea god would come to Noelle's aid. So, in a way, the Leviathan is part of the Black Bulls, and Miss Royalty herself could call upon its power whenever she really needs it. Alongside that, here's another Q&A that gave a surprising reveal about her heritage. Well, not intentionally, as the person was mostly asking about why Noelle's magic power is on the scale of a Wizard King. And in response, Yuki Tabata said that it's because she in particular strongly inherited Lumiere's blood. Now, I could be reading too much into this, but the way he said it basically confirms that Noelle is a direct descendant of the first Wizard King, or at least her family has a direct bloodline from him. Granted, this isn't something new, as it was mentioned that Lumiere's family is an ancestor of both House Vermilion and House Silva. However, the mangaka's answer will kind of suggest that certain individuals within House Silva have stronger familiar ties with the Wizard King than anyone else. hence why Noelle and her mother have great magical power, as they have likely inherited Lumiere's large magical reserve the most. Of course, how or even when the first Wizard King had time to continue his legacy is a bit unknown. I assume he must have already been married before turning to stone, or Sikri herself must have done something to make sure his legacy continues. It's really hard to know, but it does give us additional lore regarding familiar ties between certain royal families, as well as an idea of how Noelle is just built different among her family. Speaking of familiar ties, here's one Q&A revolving around the Black Bull spell crazed maniac Luck. And I'll be honest, when the person asked who Luck's father was after pointing out his tremendous battle talent, I did not expect this to be Tabata's answer. For you see, it turns out Luck's father is a brother of Charlotte's father, in other words, a noble, so that means Luck himself came from noble birth. However, after thinking it over, it does explain a lot in regards to why his magic is so much powerful than normal mages. Plus, him getting possessed by an elf was kind of a big giveaway, since most of the possessed came from royalty or noble stature. And as for Luck to be Charlotte's cousin, I guess not that surprising either, given how the elves who possessed both mages were related as well. Although I assume it's unlikely that they will ever find out that they are related, and I'm not just saying this because the series is over. On to another topic, here's something that I think fans would like to know more about, like the additional lore about the Earth Spirit. After all, compared to the other three spirits we know, the Earth Spirit is the one that we know the least. And it doesn't help that it first appeared very late in the game. With that in mind, we should be grateful that the guidebook was able to give us more info about it. Of course, it's nothing really mind-blowing, it's just telling us how there's some history between it and the Diamond Kingdom. However, I do find it interesting how the Earth Spirit is responsible for the kingdom's terrain, and as a result, produce many mages with Earth attributes. Not to mention why those like the mad scholar Morris wanted to locate and research the Earth Spirit just so they can see its overwhelming superiority. It's not much to go by, but it's more than what we can hope for. Finally, before I end this, I also want to reveal the identities and magic of the highest ranking devils who have incarnated within Noelle's mother and Morris. It's relatively small, but still worth knowing. In the case of Noelle's mother, the devil that incarnated into her is called Belphegor, and their magic is water attribute. And as for Morris's devil, it goes by Osmodeus, and their magic is earth attribute. Other than that, that's basically it. Though it is interesting to know how each of the strongest devils is associated with one elemental magic, and like the others, their magic attribute might be overpowering. I kinda wish we also know what they look like, but the transformation of their host does give us an idea. Alright, that's pretty much all the details I want to reveal from the guidebook. Obviously, there is more, but most are rather minor in comparison. Anyway, if you guys want to add your thoughts on all this, then leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.